Welcome back to Wealth and Mobility Insights, a podcast series by Gallant and Two. I'm your host, Sarah. This podcast is for those who know that wealth, when designed intentionally, becomes a legacy, not just a lifestyle. Today's episode flips a common mindset I hear from professionals in their 30s and 40s, especially those just beginning to crest into something significant. Estate planning, isn't that for later? But what if delaying that conversation actually puts your family, your assets, and even your intentions at risk well before retirement ever enters the picture? To unpack, while estate planning is foundational, not optional, I am joined again by Alvin Giroux, senior partner at Gallant and Tool and someone who helps global clients protect what they build while they're still building it.
Thank you, Sarah, for the very lovely introduction. It's always great to be here.
So let's get into it. You work with a lot of high income professionals, and I can imagine many of them think I'm 35, I'm healthy, I have a good job. Why do I need an estate plan already? What do you say to that?
So that's exactly the type of mindset we see, and it's very understandable, especially among young founders, young professionals. But here's the fact. If you're making over $200,000 a year, have children, mortgage maybe, some investments or life insurance, then you already have an estate. The question isn't whether you need a plan. The question is, do you want to decide what happens to everything you built, or do you want the courts to decide?
That's a very powerful way to put it, Alvin. So, what are the core pieces that someone in that stage of life really needs?
So we call them four foundational documents are a will. So this lets you name the person who will receive your assets, who will be the guardian of your children. Without this, those decisions can go to court. Next is the power of attorney for property. So if you're ever incapacitated, this gives someone you trust the ability to manage your finances. Then your power of attorney for personal care. This is about medical decisions, also known as medical proxy. Who do you want to speak for you if you cannot? And then you have your beneficiary designations for things like your RRSP, TSFA, or life insurance. So these bypass the will entirely and go directly to whoever you've named.
Those POAs, they're not just for old age, right?
Absolutely. They are for any unexpected event, accidents, illness, anything that could leave you unable to act. Without them, even your spouse may not be able to access your accounts or speak for you legally.
So let's say someone listening is a high income professional and let's say they're married, maybe have young kids. They've got some RRSPs, a mortgage, maybe a life insurance policy through work. Why is estate planning especially important at this stage?
Well, that's a very good question. And honestly, that's exactly the profile of someone who could benefit the most from planning early. At that stage, you're usually in a rapid accumulation phase. Your income is strong, your assets are growing, RRSPs, TFSAs, real estate, maybe an even early stage equity or a side business. That means two things: more tax exposure and more complexity in how everything fits together. But here's where it gets really important. You're no longer planning just for yourself. You got people depending on you, spouse, kids, sometimes even aging parents too. And the biggest emotional question we hear, especially from parents, if something happens to me tomorrow, who would step in for my children? Who manages everything I built? And that's what the will is for. That's why we name guardians. Without those legal documents, decisions around your children, your money, and even your home fall into the hands of the court system. And that process is slow, expensive, and completely out of your control.
For those unfamiliar, that process is called probate. It's where the court validates your will, appoints your executor, and gives them the authority to act. It can take months and usually comes with fees and public disclosures. So, planning ahead isn't just about protecting people emotionally, it's about protecting them legally and financially too. Let's talk about the common mistakes or things people tend to overlook.
So, one big that we've noticed is outdated beneficiaries. We've seen people accidentally leave insurance payout to exes or parents who may not be alive because they forgot to update their forms. Another is assuming everything goes to their spouse exclusively. That's not always true, especially with blended families or if something is in one person's name only. And finally, many people just don't realize that without a will, it can take months or years to sort out an estate. Your family may not have access to funds they need right away.
It's a lot to think about, but also it's very empowering. What's the first step you would recommend?
Well, start simple, speak with us, and we can guide you through it. You don't need to navigate this alone. Begin with the essentials. Create your will and powers of attorney. Then take time to review your beneficiary designations, one on your RRSPs, insurance policies, and pension plans. These often get overlooked, but they can override your will if they're not aligned. If you have young children, decide who you trust as a guardian and speak with that person. And if you're a founder or a young professional, which many of our listeners are, then there are a few additional things to pay attention to early. What happens to your shares or equity if something happens to you? Does your corporate structure allow for continuity or transfer to family members? If you have co founders, do you have a buy sell agreement or a shareholder agreement in place that outlines what exactly happens in the event of a death or incapacity? Do you have key person insurance or cross insurance within your partnership? And finally, is the value of your business covered in your personal estate plan, or is it sitting in a separate silo no one else understands? You don't need a 50-page trust structure to start that, but you need to understand that your ownership stake is a major part of your estate and it needs to be accounted for everything else. The first step is about clarity and control. A simple plan today prevents a complex mess tomorrow.
That's such a helpful reminder, Alvin. So, if people want to learn more about this and get help, how do they actually reach out to you?
Well, they can reach out to Gallatin Tool on our website or on LinkedIn page. We work with clients across Canada and internationally, especially professionals who want to build their future intentionally.
And thank you. This was such a clear and thoughtful conversation. One I think a lot of people needed to hear. And to everyone listening, if you're building wealth, raising children, or leading a business, estate planning isn't a someday conversation, it's a now conversation. So it's not about being wealthy, it's about being responsible, being prepared, and protecting what matters the most.
Exactly. The biggest mistake we see is waiting too long. You don't need to have everything figured out, you just need to start. At Gallatin Tool, we help founders, young professionals, and families take that first step and to build from there. If this conversation raised questions for you, reach out. We're here to guide you through it, help you live the life you deserve.
You can find us at gadget.com or connect directly with Albin on LinkedIn. Thanks for listening to Wealth and Mobility Insights. Until next time, be well, plan smart, and take care of your future.